it's Karen. I thought tonight we could paint a dreamy moonlit garden scene. I don't actually have anything to show you as to what we're aiming for because it's all in my head. But I'm thinking a full moon and some glowing white flowers and some beautiful blues and just moodier colors. So I was thinking about the colors I wanted to use, and I decided to try this palette right here. These were some of the first mission paints I bought, and I really like this color palette together. So it's Granite Stone, Coffee Brown, Oxide Turquoise, Aurora Blue, and Shadow Violet. And then I also have some Daniel Smith Indigo, which is a lovely indigo shade. You will need some sort of circle, stencil, or something to draw your moon. We are going to mask it out this time so we can paint freely over the sky and not have to worry about painting around the moon. And I'm going to use this masking pen that I used in one of the other Meadow videos just to do the flowers. And we're going to kind of wing it. So gather up your supplies and we'll get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is sketch in some of the flowers using this masking pen, which I kind of just bought this, and I'm enjoying the control that it gives you. So much like the other Meadow, I'm going to suggest we kind of make a U-shaped composition. And then if you are familiar with the rule of thirds, if you were to divide this paper like this, we'll try to put some of the key features and up here. I think the moon will go up here. So I'm just going to very loosely, I'm holding this quite loose. We're just going to put some flowers. And because this is going to be dark, let's go ahead and make sure our stems are going to be masked off as well. And it's always nice to take some of it off the page. So I have mine taped. This is Arches paper, and I have it taped with painter's tape. Okay, so there are our main flowers, and for the moon, I'm going to use my smallest circle stencil, and I'm going to kind of put it right there where those imaginary lines would intersect, and I'll just draw it lightly with a pencil. Oh, and these, by the way, you can buy in any drawing section of an art store. I think I got this at Michael's. And before we do anything else, I want to just take an eraser and lighten this circle up because I don't want the pencil line to be very visible. Just enough so you can still see it. Okay. And I'm going to use my QOR masking fluid. It comes in a jar, which I think is just kind of handy. I already took this junky brush and I coated it with liquid hand soap. And as soon as I apply this, I'm going to go wash it off really quick and try to save the brush because it will ruin your brush. So I'm going to rather thickly just try to keep this in the lines if you can, but we're going to do kind of a dreamy look, so it's not going to be a perfect round circle anyways. Okay, I think that'll work. So once this all dries, we'll be able to work on a nice flowing background without worrying about avoiding anything. So you have to let this kind of masking fluid dry naturally. You can't use a heat gun on it. So I will let that dry, and then I will come back and we'll start playing. So while I was waiting for my masking fluid to dry, so it's all dry now, I was looking through this cube from Sarah Renee Clark for color inspiration. This is a bunch of palettes that are professionally put together for you with colors that work well together. And so I was curious if there was anything in here that might work for a moonlit garden. And I saw this palette, which is somewhat similar to what I had pulled out in terms of these colors, but it added this pretty apricot. So I thought that might make lovely flowers. So maybe we can make the flowers white and apricot. So I don't really have apricot paint, but I have Potter's Pink. Oops. Potter's Pink from Daniel Smith. And so I'm going to try that. But that won't be for a little bit. That'll be for the flowers closer to the end. So let's get our blues and maybe like a gray. Yep. And I'm not going to use black. We'll use indigo instead of black. But yeah, so get your blues together and a gray, and get a large flat brush for wetting the paper. Tape down your paper to a board, and have some paper towels handy, and a towel for blotting your brush. And then we can get going. So I'm going to use my flat brush in some clean, clear water. And I'm just going to lightly wet my paper. I'm going to give it a pretty good soaking so we have some time to play with the background. This is Arches paper, so it can get pretty wet without buckling and stuff. So you don't want it to be like drowning in water, but you want the surface to be nice and glistening. And then you can even wait just a minute or two and let that soak in a little into the paper. And then in the meantime, I'm going to just wet so this is basically the palette I'm using right here. So I will just spray this down with some water. I like to take my tube paints and put them in a palette. That's just how I like to paint. And I have my rag for dabbing and a little paper towel in case I need to rescue something. And I'm just going to use a normal round brush. This is a Da Vinci size 8 round brush. And I'm going to start with my gray. Move this for you. And I'm going to just, again, hold the brush loosely. And I'm going to just put some, I'm kind of like picturing a foggy full moon scene. And then we can pull in some of your turquoise if you're using it. And then the blues. Well, this one's more like a violet, a purple. And some blues. So just try to keep the center a little lighter. But like the other meadow, we want to make sure that where we have our flowers is a little darker so they'll stand out. Okay. And while it's still wet, I'm going to add, this is the indigo, so this is our darkest color. And I'm not going to add it everywhere. And I want to try to keep the area around the moon somewhat light, like moon glow. So something like that. And hopefully this will dry nice and soft since it's wet on wet. And I'm going to do the thirsty brush technique, which is just rinse your brush, dab it off so there's no paint. And I'm going to just kind of lift up some of this to make like a halo around the moon. Just to keep that nice and light. Okay, and then I'm going to thirsty brush kind of in the center of the meadow if I can. Okay, so I think what I wanted, okay, I just decided something. While this is still wet, I'm going to grab my bleed proof white, or you can grab white gouache. And I'm going to put some in this lid. And I'm actually going to try to blend out this moon. I'm just going to see what happens. Let me zoom in. Let's just see what happens when we just dab some of this around the moon. Okay. I'm hoping that's going to blend out and I can rinse my brush, dab it a little, and then I can kind of blend this out. Okay, that might look nice. I don't really know. And another thing I'm going to do, since I have my bleed proof white out, I'm going to do some spatters wet on wet down here and just see what kind of effect that gives. It might end up drying nice and blurry, kind of like background flowers or something. So I'm going to let all this dry, and I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on this spot up here, and if anything looks like it's... No, I think that's going to be fine, actually. Okay, I'm going to let this completely dry, and move on to the next phase. Okay, this is what it looked like when it dried. And I actually like the way it looks. If your background is too light in color for you, you can take your flat brush and lightly wet the sky again. If you did these spatters, you're going to blend those. So I don't know how that's going to work, but you can definitely wet the upper part and add another layer of blues to darken it up a little. And so I was looking at the center part, and I was thinking, I wonder how that would look with some gold in there. So I have this cute little tin of metallic gold, and they're really lovely golds. So I'm just going to do this wet on dry. I'm not going to wet anything, so I'm just going to take one of these colors and just lightly put some gold in here. And then I'm just using a wet brush to blend it out. So it'll be subtle. But maybe it'll provide some neat effects. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, I'll dry that and then we'll keep going. Okay, before I remove my masking fluid, I'm just going to take a paper towel and dry off my tape to make sure that I don't smear anything. So that's all dry. And then my little paint pen came with a cement eraser for removing the fluid. All right, so far so good. So I think now, what do I want to do now? Let's work on the moon a little bit. So I'm going to use, what am I going to use? Maybe my light. Yeah, we need to do a really light hand with the moon because it's actually pretty the way it is. So I have this turquoise color, so I'm going to just try to add a bunch of water to it and really water it down. And we're just going to try to put some shadows on the moon. So I just have a clean brush, clean water, and I'm going to lightly wet. And then I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush just for this and take this very watery turquoise and just kind of make some shadow, craters, that kind of thing. And that should dry later, but I'm just going to dab some of that off with my paper towel because I want it to be pretty subtle. And then I think I will take like maybe some of my indigo and just dab a tiny bit just to make some craters. Some darker craters. Okay. And then I'm just going to actually add just some plain water to smear that out. And then dab again. Alright. Maybe. While that moon is still wet, I'm going to come back in with some bleed-proof white again. And dab that in. And kind of just let that move around too. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that dries. I mean, I think it's maybe kind of cool. Here. That's what it's looking like right now. Definitely looks like it has texture. So, okay. So, let's come down to our meadow. And we have, out of this color palette, we have gray, brown, and some blues. Or we have that gold that we used too. Brown and gold might look kind of cool. Let's see. Get the gold back out. Okay. Let's just start playing. So I'm going to switch to a detail brush. And I've got some brown. So, oh, we were gonna do pink. All right, I already forgot. We were gonna do pink. Okay, so we'll do the potter's pink and gold for the flowers. How interesting. Okay. Okay. So I've got I'm gonna hold it. I'm not just gonna hold it too tightly, but I also can't like hold it all the way back here like I normally do, so kind of halfway down. So I have a little bit of control, but it's not crazy because I don't want to just color in these spots. I want to leave some of the white, make it loose, and then while that pink is still wet, I'm going to add some gold, bring it down the length of the stem, and then immediately come back in with some brown. This is that coffee brown. And not color in the whole thing, but just here and there. And then maybe at the under part of the flower, just dab some in. Interesting. Okay. All right, and we'll do another one. It's the same thing. Just lightly dab here and there. Leave some of the white. Pull the gold from the base down the stem. Add some brown here and there. So far, so good. I think this is kind of cool for an imaginary painting. And while this is wet, you can come back in with your brown and darken it up if you need to, here and there. Okay. And come back in with your brown. Okay. I think those actually look pretty cool. So now I want to still use the detail brush and I want to add some grasses. And I'll probably just start with the brown and maybe do gold and brown. Maybe. We'll see how that works. Maybe I'll do a different gold. Just use what you have if you have any metallic whatsoever. And now I'm going to definitely hold my brush further back because I just want to loosely and lightly do some grasses. And don't try to control it, because we want it to look somewhat natural. So let's do more of the browns on the sides. And then we'll do some of the golds in the middle where we had already put the gold. I suppose we could probably just add some pink in there too, since we have pink flowers. And notice I'm starting some of them like an inch up from the bottom. Like you don't want every single piece of grass coming out of the bottom because you want to try to create some depth to it. And then we can probably even do some indigo. I'm going to do some indigo here just at the sides. Pretty. Okay, for this gold part on the center, I'm actually going to switch brushes to like a smaller round brush. And I'm going to take just a blob of gold and I'm going to kind of just scatter it here and there. And then add some water. It's very pretty. You should see. I don't know if you can see how it's shimmering, but oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And then I'm actually going to spatter. So, oh my gosh, look what I did, you guys. Oh no, I got brown on my sky. Crap. Oh, okay, well, so let's try to get that out. So I'm gonna just take clear water on my brush and dab. And hope that it comes out. Okay, well, it did come out, actually. So, there. Yay, okay. I got so enthralled with what I was doing. Now we can spatter. So let's cover up the sky with a scratch piece of paper. Just cover that up. And we will have to get this wetter. Switch the brush to your non-dominant hand and lightly tap on it. It's very pretty. And then while we're spattering, I'm going to grab my bleed-proof white again and do the same thing. Add some water so it's nice and watery. And switch to your other hand and spatter. It's looking quite nice. I like it. Okay. All right, let's let that dry and then we will come back and see what else we want to do to it. So I think it's looking quite lovely. One thing I want to do is darken up the bases of the flowers, because if you imagine the light is hitting it on the top where the white is, it would be darker in shadow underneath and probably along the stem. So I think I'm going to grab a new color. I'm going to grab some Payne's Gray, just here on my palette. And a small brush, like a detail brush of some kind. So here's that little detail brush. And we will start adding and I'm not like drawing it on, I'm just kind of dabbing it here and there. And this brush is actually somewhat hard to control, which is good, because I'm just kind of adding some, maybe some leaves, but in no particular method, just kind of dabbing stuff on here and there, and then adding some dark to the stem. Okay. Zoom in for you if you wanna see what I'm doing a little bit closer. Just dance your brush around. Darken up some of the stem, not all of it. And then while it's wet, you can come back in and add a little bit more darkness. But I think the contrast is really what it needed. Got a little crazy right there. We'll dab some of that off. Okay, and I think now that we've added some Payne's Gray, just a couple, like a corner here and there of Payne's Gray splatters might work as well. So we'll cover up the sky again. And do the same thing. Switch to your non-dominant hand. Just a few. Just don't go crazy. Just for the contrast. Yeah, I like that. I also think, now that I'm looking at it, this gold, I like the gold in the center, but I want some brown in there too. So I'm going to go back to that brown, find it, that I had, the coffee brown. And back to a detail brush. And let's just add a little, I'm going to dab it off actually so I don't do too much, but just darken up, because this is all just like one color right now. It's all gold. So let's darken that up, just add a little bit more. That's better. And then while I have this brush and the brown, we might as well put some leaves on our plants. So I'm just going to do a quick little motion, kind of like that. I'm not going to overthink it for the leaves. I like it. And now I actually think I want to do some brown spatters in here too. I hope we're not like overdoing the spattering, but I will do it with this detail brush. Same technique, but just, oops, oh dear. That might be too much. Let me dab some of that off if I can. Okay. I actually like it. And I like the way the moon is right now. I don't really think it needs anything else. It's very subtle. Almost like it's kind of in the clouds, or... And if you can see how beautiful the gold is. So I think I'm going to leave it alone. Less is more sometimes. And we wanted this to be kind of simple anyways. What else do I'm happy with it. So I'm going to dry this and we'll peel the tape and see how it looks. So let's peel off the tape, and like we've talked about before, do it slowly and at an angle. All right. What do we think? I think it's really pretty. I might try it with a little mat and a frame and see how it looks. But I hope that you like yours, and I hope that you had fun playing with some new materials and techniques. And thanks for joining me. I'll see you again soon.